Hey, everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and I wanted to have this important conversation with you about what to do when things get worse. There is a possibility that things will not improve, and it does feel like we're on a negative trajectory. However, a lot of us have a skewed view as to how things will work out for us post an SHTF or collapse type scenario. Because as preppers, we have a lot of gear and equipment and skills that we've acquired over the years in order to maintain stability and security over our own households, our neighborhoods, and our communities to a degree. However, we need to have a reality check every so often and conduct an honest assessment of our skills and our strengths and apply that to a rebuilding and stabilization effort on a community-wide scale post any type of crisis scenario to really understand what we'll need to do when those things actually get worse. This is all spawned on by a conversation I recently had with my friend Chappie, where we were talking about a community organization in order to reestablish security and stability post an emergency event, and how if someone like myself were to show up to the hub regarding that organization, with the equipment and the gear that I have and the minor amount of skills that I built up over the years and said, hey, I'm here and I'm ready to help out where I can, the likelihood of being put into a position where things like firearms and body armor and all that kind of stuff would actually be applicable is extremely low. Because in reality, right now, to this day, there are already people who do those things professionally at an organized level. And I don't have that experience or that background and end up just becoming a liability more than anything else. And in that sense, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, well, what am I actually good at? What are my strengths? Because if I'm not in law enforcement and I'm not in the military and I don't have any of that background, are those things actually strengths or experience that you can apply? And generally, the answer is probably going to be no. However, there are circumstances where if there's complete without rule of law and all you have is your community and your neighborhood and none of these professionals exist any longer, then of course some people are going to have to step up and take over those positions. But in general, especially based on a disaster style event, if this happens and we have to come together as a community, you have, a police department, a sheriff's department, National Guard, or whoever else it might be that's already part of that equation. And you'll have to look at yourself and really identify what it is you're capable of being the most efficient with in the sense of how you can help aid your community in that rebuilding effort. And so personally, yes, like I might have all the guns and all the stuff and the willingness to do whatever needs to be done in the sense of tell me what you want and I'll do my best, right? But in all honesty, my background and my career has generally been in the hospitality industry and the food service business, right? And so my nightmare, which is most likely also a reality during a SHTF type event, is that my greatest level of service would be to organize and manage the distribution of food and the ability for food to be prepared for large quantities of people, because that's something I've done professionally for many years. And it's something I don't want to do, and it's something that I would not enjoy doing. But it is something that I am good at. And I'm good at that. And so there's a likelihood that that's where I would end up, is in that capacity of like a quartermaster or in the sense of just dealing with distribution as a whole. Not to mention a large part of that background also applies to management, which is basically around the realms of a human resources type scenario. And if I can help manage where people are adding their ability to aid and assist in that rebuilding effort, then possibly there's some of those strengths being applied in that manner as well. But in general, it's likely I'd find myself at least near a kitchen, if not just in one. And that's just reality. And that's okay, because if it's what's required to bring everything back online and to maintain a level of security and stability within my community, which in turn makes my family safer in the process, then that's just what has to be done. And although things might happen where my ability to pick up a rifle might be a good thing to have, and where my ability to defend myself, even though I might be in a kitchen, I might still be carrying a firearm, is still important because there's a lot of chaos and a lot of uncertainty. That being my primary role in any organized capacity is very, very unlikely. Is it my primary role as the head of my household? when I'm at home and I'm the only one there to protect my family? Yes. And that's why a lot of this stuff is still very important. Is it my primary, approach if it ever comes to the fact that I have me and a small group trying to deal with something much more dangerous? Yes, that is something else that would be indicative of a reason for why I have to have these pieces of equipment, this gear, and this minor level of skill that I've developed over the years. But when it comes to the grand scale, and when it comes to actually getting out to the other side of when things get worse, we have to lean into our strengths. And that's what you need to do. You need to identify what you're good at now and reinforce it. What do you do now? That's something you should ask yourself, right? If you are someone who runs a retail store, understand what that skill set can be applied to in a post-SHTF environment, and be aware of the fact that that's likely going to be your role in your community at that point, because it's what you are good at, it's what you're trained in, and it's what you're able to add in the sense of an efficient way to help make things better. And I think that's something all of us could, be realistic about, be honest about, and understanding of, and things will come together a little bit more smoothly if that situation ever arises. And that's just the reality of it, right? So look, you should have stuff and things so that way if stuff falls apart, you have your way to get through the really bad parts of that scenario. But you also have to be realistic about your capabilities and what you can provide your community in that type of a scenario to where you can actually be an asset. And I'm not an asset when it comes to a lot of this stuff when thrown into an organized group that's already doing that professionally. I become a liability. However, there are places where I am most certainly an asset. And it's based on all the skills, knowledge, and expertise that I've developed throughout my career over the years. I don't care if you scoop ice cream or if you change tires, there are skills within all of those different jobs that are out there that will be needed and useful during a collapse scenario. So I just want to have this conversation because I think it's slightly overlooked at times. And I do believe that there will be a place for all of us that we might not even like, and that we might not necessarily want to do, but it is something that we probably should be prepared to do because it's what needs to be done. So, if you guys want to leave some comments below to kind of give me some ideas about, I don't know, what you're good at or your skills or whatnot when it comes to being an asset post-collapse, please feel free. I think it'd be a great conversation. And of course, if you want to support the channel, you can go to magicprepper.com where there's a lot of ways that you can do that. And if you want to support a nonprofit organization where my friend Chappie is the founder, who has been very helpful in the sense of giving me things to consider and discuss regarding preparedness, then check out tf70.org because we're trying to do some good things over there that nobody else is currently providing. So, anything else you need from me at all, you know what to do. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.